I've ordered the United States Navy to shoot and kill any boat, small boats though they may be, that is putting mines in the waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Their naval ships are all, 159 of them, at the bottom of the sea. There is to be no hesitation. 159 Iranian naval ships at the bottom of the sea. That is not hyperbole dressed up as foreign policy. That is a confirmed battle damage number delivered in a presidential social media post as an aside. The complete destruction of what was the 14th largest navy in the world, mentioned in brackets, while issuing a shoot-on-sight order against whatever is left. Iran fired on 3 ships in the Strait of Hormuz on Wednesday. The IRGC's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard approached a container ship without warning and opened fire, causing heavy damage to the bridge. It then seized 2 vessels, the Panama-flagged MSC Francesca and the Liberia-flagged Epaminondas, and escorted them to Iran's coast. 2 container ships seized, 1 damaged. This happened during a ceasefire. This is day 54 of a war that began on February 28th. Iran has no navy left by any conventional measure, and its submarine fleet was eliminated in the first 72 hours. Its frigates are on the seafloor off Bandar Abbas. Its drone carrier sank at its mooring before it fired a single weapon. And yet here we are, 54 days later, with Iran seizing commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz during a ceasefire, and the U.S. president issuing a shoot-on-sight order against small boats. How does a navy with 159 ships on the ocean floor still control the world's most critical energy choke point? And why is the answer to that question more dangerous than the question itself? If this is the kind of analysis you are not getting anywhere else, subscribe to this channel and hit that like button. We do not cover what happened. We break down why it had to happen this way. To understand where Iran's last operational boats came from and what they can actually do, you need to understand the architecture of what the IRGC built over 40 years in the Persian Gulf. The IRGC Navy was never designed to fight the U.S. Navy ship to ship. That equation has one answer, and Iran knew it in 1988 when Operation Praying Mantis sank half its fleet in a single afternoon. What the IRGC built instead was a swarm force, hundreds of small, fast, cheap fiberglass speedboats, bow riders, RHIBs, modified fishing vessels. Boats that individually cost less than a luxury car and collectively could saturate the targeting systems of guided missile destroyers by sheer volume. Trump said it himself, small boats though they may be. These are not warships in any conventional sense. They are armed motorboats, and they are the last operational maritime tool the IRGC has left after the U.S. Navy and Air Force eliminated everything above them in the force structure. But do not mistake small for irrelevant. A speedboat with a rocket-propelled grenade that gets within 200 meters of a supertanker does not need to sink it. It needs to set the bridge on fire, kill the captain, and make the next crew think twice about accepting the assignment. Iran does not need to sink a convoy to close the Strait of Hormuz. It needs to sink one tanker, one burning hull in that corridor, and no insurer on Earth will write the next policy. That logic holds even with small boats, especially with small boats. Small boats are hard to find, hard to track at night, and impossible to eliminate in volume when they are dispersed across hundreds of coastal coves, inlets, and fishing harbors along Iran's 1,200-kilometer Gulf coastline. This is the 10% problem the U.S. military has been trying to solve since day one of Operation Epic Fury. It solved the 90% easily, with aircraft carriers, B-2 bombers, Tomahawk cruise missiles, submarines, and A-10 attack aircraft. The surface fleet is gone. The submarines are gone. The shore-based missile infrastructure is heavily degraded. The mine-laying vessels, 44 of them, were confirmed destroyed by mid-March. But the speedboats in the coves, the gunboats in the fishing harbors, and the rigid hull inflatable boats that blend into the background noise of a busy Gulf coastline are what Iran is still operating. Those are what seized the MSC Francesca on Wednesday. Now look at the mine problem. It is the most extraordinary detail in this entire campaign, buried in a single line of a Wikipedia entry that nobody is discussing at the level it deserves. According to one report, Iran lost track of mines it planted in the Strait of Hormuz and is therefore unable to fully open it. Read that sentence one more time. Iran cannot open its own blockade. Not because the US is stopping it, not because of ceasefire conditions it refuses to accept. It planted mines in a 6 nautical mile corridor of fast-moving, turbulent, tidally complex water, and subsequently lost the precise coordinates of where those mines are now sitting. Earlier this month, the New York Times reported that Iran was finding it increasingly difficult to reopen the Strait of Hormuz due to its inability to locate all the naval mines it planted. This is what happens when you deploy a weapon you designed for denial, and then discover that denial is not reversible on command. A naval mine does not care about ceasefires, it does not care about diplomatic timelines, Pakistani mediators, or Trump's Truth social posts. It sits on the seabed at its pre-programmed depth and waits for something large and metal to pass within lethal range. Iran's own peace negotiators cannot fully open the strait because Iran's own weapons are still in it, in locations Iran's own forces can no longer map with confidence. Military planners from more than 30 countries are meeting at a Royal Air Force base north of London to assemble a multinational mine clearance mission. British defense officials have floated the idea of deploying autonomous mine hunting systems from motherships sent to the Gulf, but they caution that whatever plan they produce will only take effect after a sustained ceasefire between Iran and the US. 30 countries, a base in England, autonomous mine hunting robots, all of this infrastructure and expertise mobilized to find and remove weapons Iran itself can no longer locate. The weapon that was supposed to be Iran's ultimate insurance policy is now a liability that prevents the regime from collecting on the very deal it says it wants. Now look at what Iran has been doing since the ceasefire took effect on April 8th. The behavior of a regime during a ceasefire tells you more about its strategic position than its behavior during active combat. After the ceasefire came into effect, Iran began to control traffic through the strait and charge tolls of over $1 million per ship. One lawmaker confirmed the first Strait of Hormuz toll revenues had been banked. $1 million per transit. Iran converted the world's most critical energy choke point into a toll booth at gunpoint. Not to fund the war, it has no functional military left to fund in the strait. It was to demonstrate that it still controls something, that the flag is still flying over something, that the regime that lost 159 ships still has a hand on a lever that matters. The US seized an Iranian cargo ship in the Gulf of Oman. Marines boarded and took custody of the vessel. Trump said the ship was trying to evade the US blockade of Iran. Iran's parliament speaker said blockading Iranian ports is an act of war, and that reopening the strait is impossible under the current conditions. Iran seizes 2 ships. The US seizes Iranian ships. Iran fires on 3 vessels during the ceasefire. Trump orders shoot on sight against mine-laying boats. The Islamabad peace talks collapse before they begin because the US seized an Iranian vessel hours before the meeting was scheduled to start. Both sides are running dueling blockades in the same 6 nautical mile corridor during a ceasefire, while claiming the other side is violating it. This is not a ceasefire. This is the negotiating table conducted entirely through maritime interdiction, with occasional gunfire to clarify positions. The US Navy has achieved sea control of the Persian Gulf in every conventional metric. The US blockade, which took effect on April 13th under the command of Admiral Brad Cooper at Central Command, encompasses the entirety of the Iranian coastline. Any vessel entering or departing the blockaded area without authorization is subject to interception, diversion, and capture. No ship can enter or leave without the approval of the U.S. Navy. It is, in Trump's words, sealed up tight. But Iran retains one capability that conventional sea control does not automatically eliminate: the ability to reach into the shipping lane with a speedboat at 3 in the morning and fire on a container ship before any intercepting platform can respond. Not to sink it, to damage it, to kill one crew member, to generate one headline that resets the insurance market to zero and buys another week of leverage at the negotiating table. It will take until July for oil flows to reach up to 90% of pre-war levels, and up to another 2 months for barrels to arrive at refineries around the world for processing. The strait remains basically closed as Iran continues to control ship traffic, while the U.S. maintains its blockade of Iranian ports. July, for 90% of flow, and that assumes the mines get cleared, the ceasefire holds, the speedboats stop firing, and the peace talks that collapsed in Islamabad somehow reconvene and produce an agreement that a fractured Iranian leadership can actually enforce on an IRGC that has demonstrated it will fire on shipping, regardless of what its foreign minister tells international mediators. Trump noted the infighting between hardliners who have been losing badly on the battlefield and moderates who are not very moderate at all, calling the situation crazy and saying Iran is having a hard time figuring out who is in charge. He said he would maintain the ceasefire while Iran drafts its proposal and has no fixed timetable for when fighting might resume. No fixed timetable. That is the most important phrase in everything Trump said on Thursday. No fixed timetable means the shoot-on-sight order is not an escalation. It is a holding position, and it is the U.S. saying, we will wait for the political situation in Tehran to resolve itself in favor of people who can actually deliver a deal. And while we wait, any boat that lays a mine in our minesweeper's path will be destroyed on contact. The Iranian regime spent 40 years building the most formidable asymmetric naval force in the Persian Gulf. It lost 159 ships in 54 days. It planted mines it cannot now find. It is charging $1 million per transit in a corridor it cannot reliably control. Its hardliners are seizing container ships during a ceasefire that its moderates are trying to convert into a peace deal. The 41 boats that remain are not a fighting force. They are a negotiating position expressed in fiberglass and outboard engines. And the U.S. Navy just received explicit authorization to remove that negotiating position from the water on site. The last boats are not hiding. They are calculating, because the moment they move, they will no longer be a problem. If this breakdown changed how you understand what is actually happening in the Strait of Hormuz right now, not the ceasefire headlines, not the diplomatic noise, but the military physics underneath all of it, subscribe to this channel and hit the like button right now. Every subscriber and every like puts this analysis in front of more people who want to understand the strategy, not just the story. The next equation is already being built. We will be here when it surfaces.